Hey guys, how's it going? Finally, I'm ready to brew today. Yes, I am. It's been over a year, like since I've brewed. It's been nuts. I'm just gonna show you around what I've done, and then I'm gonna make some video here and there as I brew, but I'm just happy that I'm finally at the stage where I'm able to brew. I just wanna show you all the things that I've had to buy that I didn't think I had to buy, but I ended up having to buy. But I'll just go through that now with you guys, but for no further ado, let's brew. Cheers. Okay guys, so the latest addition that I didn't expect to get was this Spike brewing kettle, 20 gallon. What happened was I actually went and purchased, just sitting over here for now, I haven't put it on there yet. This is the Spike condensing lid, and I bought that because that's what I was waiting for, and it arrived, and I went to put it on my clawhammer supply kettle, and guess what? It doesn't fit. Yeah, by 1/4 inch. That's my fault. I should have checked the size of it, but nevertheless, here I am where I've got nowhere that I can vent. So what did I do? I went and got the condensing lid, and it doesn't fit. So I had to dive in and buy this Spike 20 gallon pot. Now it is 3 times the thickness metal of the clawhammer. Nothing against clawhammer, they were a good product. I'm probably gonna sell my bucket with the pail, or it has the container in there for mashing also in it, the basket. I'm not gonna sell the brains of the clawhammer because I really do like it, but this is a really good brew kettle. So I have got my water sitting in here ready to go. It's a great pot. The one thing though I was gonna email Spike about is this. Okay, I'm not a fan of that. We'll see how it goes. This looks like it's just like it's like a stuck-on type of material. You see how clawhammer has it? It's like it's etched in the metal, and Spike used to always do that. I have this Spike fermenter here. You can't see it because it's got the jacket on it, but it's like printed into the metal. And they did the same thing. If you take a look over on the lid, and I'm not too happy with that. I didn't know they did that. It doesn't take away that Spike is got great products. The reason I bought the Spike is I had them make this. You can have these tri-clamp areas put on anywhere you want in the pot. This one has this will be for basically getting the wort out at the end of the boil. This one is for doing like a whirlpool, and also to help cool the wort after I'm finished doing the boil. Has a port back here for temperature probe, and back on the corner here it is for my heater element. So it works out really well. I did do a water test with it yesterday to make sure everything was working, nothing was leaking, and everything worked out well. So today I am going to do a brew. Now, I am so out of practice with this. I don't know what's gonna happen. Some of the products I'm using, like the grain is older, so I'm a little worried about how much the grain is what enzymes I'll have left on the grain. So what I did do is I've bought, see if you can see that, this stuff here. It is, how do you say that? Glucosamylase. Can't even read it that way, but there's enzymes like alpha and beta enzymes, alamase, that surround the grain. But after months and months and months of storage of my grain here, because I buy it in bulk, the amylase breaks down and doesn't work as well. So I did put a little bit in there to help with that. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to do what's called underletting. I've never done this before, where I've got water sitting at about 175, actually, or sorry, 172. I'm gonna wait till that gets down to about 170, and I'm gonna pump the water from my boil kettle up through the bottom into the grain. It's called underletting. And the reason for that is then you don't really have to worry about getting what's called dough balls, where if you pour the grain straight in to the top here, when there's water in there, you have to stir it with a mash paddle, which I'm still going to do, but it ends up getting a lot of these things called dough balls where it just kind of clumps up, almost like sticky oatmeal. Now, if you don't get the dough balls all broken up, then you can get not very good transformation of the breaking down with the alpha betas, and you won't get as much sugar out of it, and you get some off flavors as well. So by underletting, that is supposed to stop that from happening. So I've never done this before, so I will be doing underletting for the first time. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I've got a few things I got to do before I can start to actually put this in there. But for now, I just wanted to show you guys, this is my latest purchase after my other purchase. And you will see this in action when I've got the steam condensing lid running. There's not a lot of videos out there talking about it and how it works, and I'm going to kind of go over that a little bit because I have seen some people having problems running it. The only thing I'm worried about, I got to figure out, is if anyone's brewed before that's watching this channel, more than likely, when you first are boiling the wort, it has to go through what's called hot break. So hot break is where it has to break down basically the proteins or whatever you want to call it in the wort at the very beginning, and it kind of will foam up just as it's getting to the boiling point, and you got to boil it for about 5 to 10 minutes to allow that hot break to break down, and then you're fine. Then you won't have a boil over, and that's the problem I'm worried about, is a boil over, because when I put this condensing lid on, which is over here, and you'll see it when I do put it on, there's a little sight glass that they have here, but the sight glass steams up. So I haven't gone online yet to see if there's some way that some people put, I don't know, something over the plastic so you can see in there. Maybe they put a Vaseline on it, or I'm not sure what they would use, but I'm worried about that. So I may have to start doing it first without the lid on and get my hot break done. I don't know, we'll see. I don't want it overflowing, so I'm a little worried about that. But I've got everything pretty much ready to go in the brewery here. Yeah, and I got my glycol chiller down here that's ready to go, because once I put this wort into my fermenter, I will program it to run at about 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And the glycol chiller will run on and off to make sure that this thing keeps at that temperature for fermenting, and that will give us the best chance for the best beer. So no further ado and me yapping away, I am going to start brewing. Cheers. So just underletting right now. I've never done this before, as I've said. I can hear it going in, and I need to go put about 7 gallons of water in. So I'm just going to open up this a little bit more, and you'll see this is dropping down, and that'll continue until I get to about 7 gallons. It's funny, I've never done this before, but I'm watching the kernels, or the grain, sorry. You can see it moving like as if like there's air pushing up through it, and I'm just waiting to see the water come up. I'm at 9 gallons now. I'm going to stop it when it gets to 8, because that's supposed to be about the right amount, but we'll see. I may have to go a little bit more because I haven't seen anything come up yet, so I may have to stop filming just to shut this off when I need to, but it's getting there. Yeah, the grain is actually rising. It's funny. So I will have to shut this off. Hi guys. Okay, so I've finished doing the mash. It's been over an hour, and what I'm trying to do now is it's called Vorlauf, which is German. It basically means you recycle from the bottom of the mash tun, and I'm using the pump to go up through here and then back into here. It's been really tricky to get a proper flow because you don't want a fast flow. And the reason you do this is to basically help clear out the wort before it goes into the kettle, and it's also to set the grain bed, which means you want the grain in here to kind of settle just a little bit, and it acts like a filter on itself. And it just gives you a clearer wort that you're going to end up putting into here eventually. So right now it's starting to clear up a bit. I've never done this before this way. I used to do it with gravity. I would basically put a bucket, one of these buckets underneath here, and slowly let it filter into a bucket and then just slowly pour it back into here. So this has seemed to work. It's working okay, and it is starting to clear. Yep, it was really hazy, and it is now starting to clear. That's a good sign. That means it has set the grain bed properly. I'm just going to stir just a touch. It's so hard to get this. This is not meant to do this. I got to get some better valves. So I'll let this run for 5 more minutes, and then what I'm going to do is there's two different types of sparging when you're mashing. There's batch sparging and there's fly sparging. So batch sparging is when you drain all of the liquid, which is the wort, into the buckets, and then you mix more hot water back in the top to rinse the sugars out, basically. That's batch sparging. I've done that before, but then I've had problems with getting what's called a stuck sparge, where it plugs up and I can't get any grain out. So the second way to do it, which is trickier with only having 2 vessels here, is fly sparging, where I'm going to take the remaining hot water here, which is about 175 now, and slowly trickle it into the top here, keeping about an inch of water up on top of the grain bed, and at the same time draining it into buckets until I collect about, I'd say probably 12 gallons of wort total out of these buckets. And once I do that, then I will pour them into my boil kettle and I will start boiling away. So till then, I'll see you. Okay guys, I am now doing what's called fly sparging. You can see I've got water running in here, and I'm trying to keep it about an inch or so above the grain bed while trying to have the same amount of flow coming through the bottom here. And I'm using the pump, and I've got the water set for about 180 degrees. Now what I'm going to do in a few minutes is shut off that heater, because it's a little dangerous what I'm doing right now, because I could, if I forget, you can see the heater there, run into an issue where I run this dry with the heater running. So that in the next 5 minutes or so, I will shut off my heater. There'll be enough residual heat at 180 to 175 degrees to keep washing through the grain. Now, 2 reasons why you wash the grain is because you want to basically stop any of the enzymes from continuing. That's one of the theories, from breaking down sugars. I don't know if I believe that, but that's what they say. The other thing is to make sure that all the sugar gets washed out of there by using a hotter water, and that's what the main reason is, I think. So I'll just have to put my camera off for a few minutes because I got to make sure I balance this out correctly. Cheers. Okay guys, I've started to sparge now. You can see how nice and clear, how delicious that beer is looking coming out. It's not beer yet, of course. It's what we call wort. And here's the top here. This, by the way, this white piece, this is just a strainer, just to keep from when I have my liquid pouring through here, not creating a hole straight down through, and then not getting the proper grain, water washing through the grain properly. So I'm about to start fly sparging. I'm just letting the water come down a bit so I can see the top of the grain bed, because right now there's probably good 2 inches of water on here, and I just want it to settle in a little bit, and then I'm going to start to heat this up. So what I'm actually going to do here is I got to program this. Let's see, 175 is about where I want it. So if I set it for that and I turn the heat on, sorry if I wasn't holding that up properly, this here is now going to bring the temperature up to 75, which is about the temperature you want this water to be when you're fly sparging. Okay, so that's just heating up now. Yep, I'm getting a nice clear wort, so my Vorloff works correctly. And very soon I'm going to start my pump, and I will have to regulate how fast it pours in by this lever here. I'm going to get a different pump probably at the end of this year with a better adjustment. That it's really hard to get that opener closed at the right speed, and it's really important when you're fly sparging. Normally when you fly sparge as well, you would have 3 containers. That's your mash tun, the orange one there, that's your boil kettle. You'd have a third one called the hot liquor tank, and that's where the hot water would be coming from, not this, not from my boil kettle. So it'd be the hot liquor tank, and I'd be pouring into here, and then I wouldn't have to pour it in buckets. This kettle would be empty, and I would be able to start boiling the wort once it got over the heater, the submersible heater. But because I don't have 3 vessels, and I don't want to get 3 vessels, I'm using my, basically, my hot water tank here, my boil kettle, is an HLT. For any of you guys who understand any of that language. So we're coming to the end of basically fly sparging. I've shut off the heater, and also the temperature probe isn't in the water anymore, so it doesn't matter. You take a look, you can see that it's getting almost touching where the heater is. Probe's out of the water, and I want to be able to drain most of this hot water through into here, and you can see how I've got the water at about 175 degrees pouring in this basket, just so it doesn't make a hole down the side of the grain. And you can see how clear it is. I got about an inch or so of water on top of that grain, and then I've got it pouring down into here just by using this valve, just adjusting it. Actually has a black little mark I put it on it when I used to use it this way by gravity. If I open this all the way up, it's going to crush the grain bed, and you'll get what's called a stuck sparge. Nothing is going to come out. You're going to have to remix the grain. It's a pain in the butt. It's going to add an extra 45 minutes to to the day. So right now I'm just collecting the wort, and I should be ready to start pouring this stuff in to the boil kettle in about, I'd say, 10 minutes. Cheers. Now we've finished, well, not finished completely sparging. I've disconnected the pump for pouring water over top because it's done. But right now you see the grain is looks like it's got no liquid in it, but it's still got liquid that's running through here very slowly, and it is still draining out. So we're waiting to collect that last bit. I'll probably get about 4 gallons out of that, maybe 3 gallons. And right now I've got just under 10 gallons of wort, and I'm just heating it up now. So right now it's, it's only at about 140. I'm going to get it up to close to boiling, and then by that time I'll have this also added to it. And then at that time I'm going to put on my condensation lid, the one that's going to keep the steam out of here. Still kind of worried about what I'm going to do with hot break, because I could just do it in here for a few minutes, let it boil a hot break, but it'll get really steamy in here, so I don't know if I want to do that. I think I'm going to try it with the condensate lid on and see how it goes. I'm not even sure though, because the condensate lid right here, I talked about how it has a plastic cover that it just steams up. You can't see what's going on in there. But if I leave it off, then what's the difference really is having that off is like having the lid off. So I looked for a video on this and I can't find one. I have emailed Brian from, oh geez, sorry, I'm losing my mind what the name of his thing is, Circuit. I hate when I forget someone's name. Short Circuit Brewery, sorry Brian. I just emailed him and to see what he's done with this issue, because he's done a really good video on the condensate cover, but I can't find in that video, unless I missed it, what he says about doing a hot break and that issue with it. So I'm hoping he replies back to me in the next half hour. If not, I'm going to figure it out and I'll let you know if I make a mess or what happens with this video on a hot break with the condensate lid. Cheers. Okay, so I've got it on 100% heater on. We're at 161 degrees. That'll take probably 5 to 10 minutes to get up to around boiling. And I've hooked up my lines now through the pump only. So if I want to do a recirculation to create like a whirlpool up in here, it will be pumped down through the bottom. It's going to come through the bottom of the pump, up through the top of the pump, and it's then going to go through my recirculation tube here. Got them both closed right now. I've tested them, make sure there's no leaks. And the next thing you want to do, once you've got all your work collected, I got just under 12.5 gallons of work collected. You want to do a sample with your refractometer. If you do not have a refractometer, I highly suggest you get one. Without that, you have to use Mr. Trusty here, Old Faithful, and this hydrometer is meant to take the measurement of sugar that's in the beer, and then you calculate that to find out at the end of your brew after fermentation how much alcohol you may or may not have. So the reason you do this right now is I just want to see whereabouts my efficiency was, which is from my grain, and I've got my grain all sitting over here. I got to dump that, and I'm hoping to have about 1.5 would be nice, 1.56 would be really nice. That'd give me efficiency probably about 75-80%. That would be great. If it's low, it means my grain was too old, even though I did use an amylase additive. The temperature was pretty close. It ended up around 149 or 150. I wanted it a little higher, but it was the first time I've ever had to add hot water, flat underletting, and I had to kind of guess a little bit what the temperature of the water should be with the grain. But right now I'm about to do this. So if you don't have a refractometer, you should get one, because that's the amount of beer it takes to get a reading. Otherwise you'd have to fill this whole container up here with the wort for a reading of the sugar, which is in bricks. And obviously you can pour that back in there, but I just find it's easier just to use this little sample here. I've let it cool down for a few minutes, and I'm just going to see if I can do this with one hand. Flip that on there and take a look. And I'm a little bit a little lower than I want on that sample. It's showing about 1045. So it's a little disappointing. It's not bad, but I expected such because the grain is older. What am I gonna do? Like when I buy my grain, I buy it in 55-pound bags. It's much cheaper. I can get it for, sometimes it depends on the types of grain. Sometimes $1 a pound, sometimes $1.50 a pound. Specialty grains are more than that, but if you buy it by the pound, it's going to be almost double. So I just buy the whole bag and go from there. And I do have my own grain mill here, which that you're going to need if you're going to buy it the grain in a bag, because you're not going to go to the store to, every time you want to brew, use their grinder. A lot of places will let you mill at their place, but it's usually when you're buying like 10 or 20 pounds, and then you're going to crush it with your mill. But then you got to use that within a month or two. If you crush it and you let it sit for more than a couple months, your efficiencies go way down. So we'll see. I mean, and this is right now, it's 10:45 is what it's showing, but we're at 12.5 gallons, and I'm going to boil this down to probably 11.5 gallons. So I'm hoping this comes down to, or up to 1050, which will give me around 5% alcohol, hopefully at the end of this all, which is about what you're looking for in a beer anyway, right? So yeah, I'm gonna now concentrate on getting ready for a hot break in a few minutes. Hey guys, well, except for the annoying water draining here, I don't know if I'll fix that somehow by, it's just the noise drives me nuts. But that's the water that's running through the pump. Down here that cools the steam as it runs through this tube here, right? So far, man, I mean, I'm gonna knock on some wood here. It's been working good. I didn't have, like right now it's boiling. There's no hot break, overflow mess, which I was worried about. Probably one of the reasons, two reasons I can think of right now why I didn't have the problem. Actually, three is: one, I know about it, the hot break. Two, this is 20-gallon brew kettle, and I got 12 gallons, just over 12 gallons in it. So got a lot of headspace. And number three, the Clawhammer Supply controller. You can adjust this thing to just touch where you want on the boiling point. Right now it's sitting around 211.3, which give or take a degree on this little sensor if it's right or wrong. Plus elevation of where you live makes a difference. We're about 1,000 feet above sea level, so I think that ends up being around 209 is boiling point, but this is just a close reference. So you can tell when you've hit boiling when the temperature doesn't go up anymore, when it hits around, like this is sitting at like 211.2, it goes to 211.3. You can't, unless you put a vessel under pressure, and this is actually in a vacuum, we've got the water running through here, it can't go above boiling temperature. So that should just stay there. And I just scalded myself just before we started the video. I lifted the lid here just a little bit just to see what's going on, and it's just doing a nice boil, but the steam came out and gave me a bit of a nice little hand scald there. I'll remember that for the next couple of days. But right now, man, this is working really, really well. And just to quickly go over how this lid does work, because I've seen unboxing videos, who cares? I've watched Short Circuit Brewery, Brian did a video on it, and he does a lot of videos on pros and cons, which is great. And he'll run through any issues he has, he'll explain it. He's a great guy to watch too, by the way. Short Circuit Brewery, he's on YouTube. Brian, he's awesome. He's the guy who got me into doing electric brewing. Before I used to do propane, but now that I'm in electric brewing, man, there's no turning back, right? So this lid cost me around 500 bucks. It isn't cheap, but the dome style helps a lot to make sure any residual steam will run right back down into the boil kettle. But the way it works is you've got this pipe here that comes across and has a slight angle on it, and that's to help bring the water and the steam down on an angle so it doesn't go back down in. But there's a little spray head up here that sprays the water from the pump, cold water or whatever water you got in the bucket, and sprays it down this tube. So two things happen. One is that water spraying down this tube causes a venturi, which creates like a slight vacuum for the water to come down and drain into this tube here. The second thing is when you knock steam down with cold water, it condenses, right? That's why it's a condensing lid. And when it condenses, it causes even more of a vacuum. So this right now is in a slight vacuum. So, I mean, 29.7 inches vacuum is a perfect vacuum. You never get to that. It's impossible. This is probably in a 0.01 or 0.2 vacuum. It's so low, but it's enough that steam isn't going to escape from this lid. And there's no gasket on here. It's just sitting on there. And it just comes down here, and there is no steam, man. I'm sitting in here in this room, and it's fine. It's not humid at all. It does go through a lot of water. I think Brian talked about that as well. I think he said it goes through about 25 gallons of water in an hour of brewing. I'm on a well, and I have a very good water source. I could run all day this thing. It wouldn't make a difference. So for me, I don't care. If you have issues with water sources, you might not want to go this route. I guess you could collect a whole bunch of water earlier, but you'd need like a 25-gallon reservoir. So that is a downfall if you got issues with water. But I'm telling you, I don't have a place I can put a hood here, and it would cost me, if I wanted to put in a hood professionally, which I'm not going to do because this is my hobby, it'd be thousands and thousands of dollars. No, thank you. This lid, when I leave, comes with me. I don't have to worry about doing it in my next brewery. Hopefully I stay here for a long, long time. I don't want to move again. But right now, man, I've got to say this was worth the expense. Except for the hidden expense of not fitting my claw hammer supply brew kettle and having to buy this new spike brew kettle. Because, yeah, it gets really expensive fast. This brew kettle, by the time I purchased these shutoffs and all of the clamps and everything else that goes with it, we were at about $1,100 plus that $500. So there's $1,600 just sitting there. That doesn't include, you know, this controller that I got with my claw hammer supply. It doesn't include the heater here, the submersible heater. None of that. It doesn't include this pump, right? So if you get into this, if you love brewing and you're getting sick and tired of brewing in the kitchen and making a mess, and you make yourself a spot like this place here I've got, where I've got gardening supplies and stuff over here. I do gardening, so I got hot peppers growing there, regular peppers and tomatoes. This is where I keep most of my stuff for my brewing. And I just invested in it because I like to do it. The sink is amazing. Lots of room. It's 2x2 by 14 deep. And you just slowly grow over time. I've been brewing for over 30 years, but it was mainly with like small batches and kits and things. When I got into all grain, that's when it really changed for me about 5 years ago. Did it for about a year or two, and then I thought, you know, I gotta start a channel, and I'm gonna talk to people on, or not talk to people, I can't one way on YouTube, but I want to explain what I do and things that I think are, you know, worth the investment if you're really into all grain brewing. Once this is brewed, and I'm gonna then videotape putting it into my fermenter here, and then about a week later it should be done, and then I'll keg it, and I'll show kegging this as well on this video. Actually, no, we'll make a separate video for that, because I want to put this up for now just to show you guys that I'm up and running with my brewery, and finally, it's been over a year. I'm having fun, man. So just a quick update. What I'm trying to figure out is where the perfect spot is once it gets boiling. So on this control, and these are the things you want to make notes on when you're brewing, finding your perfect points. I found that at about 35%, is what that lower number means, that the heater is going to pulse on and off. I mean, this is just a reference to 11.2. It's whatever. I'm trying to get it at the edge of boiling. So I was worried I wouldn't be able to see in here, but when I put my light on and I tap like this, and I get a little bit of water to drop off, I was able to see in there. And it was this nice roiling boil. And then what I also did is I added some hops, some Cascade, about half an hour in to give a bit of bitterness. And what I did is I just turned off the heater and also the pump. Then I was able to, with gloves, take this off, throw the hops in, put it back on, turn this stuff back on, and within about 5 minutes I could smell the hops coming through in this water. It was amazing. And it's pretty cool that here I am standing in here. Like I said, there's no steam in here. It's perfect. This is really working out well. I'm happy I didn't have any catastrophes, anything like that. But in another half an hour, I'll then go into adding some basically hops in a whirlpool. Okay, and I'll show that as well. Now we're at the next step. Basically what I'm doing is I've got my plate chiller here, running cold water through it, down the drain down here, and it is slowly cooling this down to, I'm looking for around 180. Once they get down that far, I'm going to do what's called a hop stand. So right now I've got the pump running, and it's running the water, or the wort through here. Kind of hard to see what's going on because of the steam, but I want to bring the temperature down. And actually, I'm going to shut off the water now because it's pretty damn quick. So once I get down to around 180 degrees, and I'm actually going to set this so it sits at 180. There. put the heat on. So, because I might have undershot, because it does, that plate chiller works really well. So right now I'm going to throw in some hops. Once it gets down to about 180, I'm going to throw in some hops. There you go. And I'm going to let it sit there and whirl around for about 20 minutes. Alright, I'm almost to my final step here now. I am now running water through the plate chiller. Got the pump on. And as you can see, the temperature up above is what it's set, or what it's showing the temperature is of the wort. It's dropping pretty quickly. I've got the wort running from this lower port through the pump, through the heat exchanger, well, through the pump, then the heat exchanger, and then back up to here. It's kind of doing like a whirlpool up in the top. Two reasons for that is to, well, of course, running through the heat or the plate chillers to cool the wort down to about 70 degrees, which is the pitching temperature for yeast. And also it makes like a cone in the middle of all the debris that comes out of the wort from the hot break, and also the hops that I've put in, because I put about an ounce of hops in there. I went really low on the hops on this one, just looking for an average, lighter beer. 20 pounds in this 10-gallon batch of pale malt, 2 pounds of two-row. I put half an ounce of Cascade for a 30-minute boil, then a half ounce of Cascade for a whirlpool at about 20 minutes or so. And they're cryo hops, so you get a little bit more bang for your buck on these. There's more oils in the hops because they do it through like a freeze dry kind of method. So there's less vegetal in, what would you call it? Less of the green stuff, the vegetal material, and more of the oils. So you need less hops. There's less mess left behind as well. And yeah, this is coming down pretty good. So I'll show you the filling up the fermenter as soon as it gets down to about 70 degrees and pitching the yeast. That'll be the end of this video, and I will do a tasting of this at the end as well. Cheers. Okay, so I hit the mark there at 68 degrees. I have now gotten ready to push the wort through this valve here. I've disconnected this one here, and it's going to go through the pump, and it's going to go up. I don't want that kink in there. It's going to go up through the heat exchanger because I don't want to disconnect it and let anything in there that shouldn't be in there. And then it's going to go up through this tube. It's been sanitized down to the bottom of this, and it's going to fill that up to probably about 11 gallons we'll get out of this, maybe 12 hopefully. I'm not sure how much boiled off. And let's see if I can even take a look in there. Looks like it's just over 11 gallons. So I always put usually 15 gallons of water to do a 10-gallon batch by the time you lose anything out of your hoses and sediment and things at the end. And I'll get 10 gallons filled up now. So I should be able to, at this point, I've got the hoses hooked up correctly. I just got to double check this. That goes into there, into there. Yep, so I can open this up. This one's open. Can then turn the pump on. And I should see beer flowing in here. Oh, open this up. And in we go. So I've sanitized everything, and this has been completely sanitized, including even the outside of this silicone line. I've put a stainless dead weight on the bottom of that line so it doesn't fall out because of the weight of this beer going in here. And this is just going to fill up. It won't overflow because that holds 15 gallons. And I only had 11 gallons basically in here. So I'm going to let this fill up, and when it's done, I'm then going to put in my glycol chiller coil here that's been all sanitized. It will go into here. I will hook up my glycol chiller where I actually have to go. I've got it out doing something else right now, the temperature controller. I will have to hook it up. It might not be until tomorrow. But it just basically allows the yeast to ferment in around 68 to 70 degrees, because when yeast starts to go crazy after about 24 hours, the heat can go up to as much as 10 degrees, and that can give off flavors. So by tomorrow afternoon, I can hook it up to the proper glycol system and we'll be good to go. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this. This is my first time using this brew kettle and also the condensing plate, and making my very first beer in my new home brewery. I don't ever want to have to do this again. I like it here. I'm staying here. You can bear me in the backyard. This is Sean signing off, Canadian Brew Channel, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy. Cheers.